everyone, welcome to another day of online art classes. Hope this finds you very well and healthy as always. Today's lesson is going to actually be Passover themed, as today is April 2nd, so I know Passover is on its way. And I watched this amazing little, very short 3-minute video provided by the YouTube channel JL Library called Passover, or the story of Passover in 10 slides. So I highly recommend that you check that out either before you're drawing or after to inspire you. It's just a really, really great short video, all drawings and paintings to tell the story of Passover and how Moses led the ancient Israelites to liberation and freedom. So I'm actually really excited because I wanted to pull from that story. There's an image that I thought was so powerful, and it's the last obstacle that takes place in the process of liberation, which is the parting of the tides, so that the ancient Jews could passage through safely after all that had happened. So I want to spin off of that idea and have you envision, how do you think that passage looked like? How do you think that image of the powerful oceans parting apart looked like? And so, as always, I'm going to walk us through. This is my inspiration from the source, JL Library, crediting the artist there that if you go on that YouTube, this image is very much like the image from that video. So I was very, very inspired by it and took it on. And this is how I sort of interpreted and envisioned the image of the oceans separating so that the Jewish people could pass through safely. So we're going to walk through this step by step as always. And of course, please take your own spin on it. If you think the passage looked different, if you think the oceans look different, if you think they wore different colors or that they look different, of course, take your spin on that. But I'm going to do my version, and hopefully that just inspires you to do your own. So I'm going to put my example up here as my guideline, and then I'm going to zoom my laptop up. And today, if you want, since it's like, this picture is a little bit harder to draw because we're drawing small figures and big figures, I encourage you to use a pencil to sketch your people, but I will be using a thick marker only because it's much easier to see on the screen. Our materials are going to be, as usual, markers and my oil pastels, and I'll be able to talk today a little bit about how to achieve different textures in drawing as well. Great. Okay, so I'm going to zoom this in so you can really see. Let me make this paper a little lower. Awesome, so I'm going to get started on my drawing inspired by the parting of the tides. And the first thing I'm going to do is I know I want a lot of my paper to be filled with ocean. Since it is parting, so therefore it should take up a lot of the surrounding parts of the paper. So I'm going to start with a sketch of my pathway so that I know which parts will be the ocean and which parts will be the safe passageway. And to do that here, I'm going to just do a curved line and a straight line for the passage and another curved line. And this will kind of represent the space where all the people can walk through. And I know now that all this area should therefore be the ocean. Now, if you believe that your passageway would look different, maybe a rounded edge, maybe the sides of the passage are wavy, whatever you think, I please encourage you to do. I'm going to fill in my spaces with blue now for the ocean. And notice I'm using the same type of marker stroke. So I'm not going up and down, side to side, crisscross, zigzag. I'm using the same motion because if you've ever gone to the beach, you'll notice that the ocean, the wave moves in one motion, right? So to capture that type of movement, I want to make sure I use my marker in the same movement. Just repeating and repeating this same movement of lines. And don't get impatient, because it's kind of like meditative. Just being able to see these lines and this really pretty blue color fill in the space slowly but surely. And of course, not getting it perfect. You can see I have some white spaces. I have some white spaces here. I'm not going to linger too far on that, because that, I'm not a computer that's printing a picture, right? I'm a human being, so it's okay to have these little human touches where not everything's complete. So for the rest of this paper, I'm going to think about if part of the ocean's going this way, shh, this part is going to go this way, shh. So I'm going to let my marker reflect that movement of the ocean. And to me, it's really beginning to look like two bodies of water are separating, which is really such a beautiful and powerful image to me. Awesome, and I'm almost there. Now the ocean, of course, had to part this way, so I'm just going to do some lines going in the left direction, slowly leading up to the right direction. To really capture that grandiosity, that epicness of the ocean parting its ways for the people. Okay, and next, as you can see, I added some other colors and details to really capture the feeling of the ocean. So I'm going to just grab my dark blue to add a couple detail lines. If you've ever, and I think I've talked about this before too, if you've ever been in the ocean or stared at it, you'll notice it's not just one color. A lot of things in life, they might be blue, but they're many shades of a certain color. So the ocean, sometimes I even find that the ocean reflects colors of purple or green. So definitely a lot of different shades of blue. I'm just taping this down so we can get it nice and flat. Definitely different shades of blue, and definitely other shades as well, sorry. Okay, so I've got my blue. I'm going to go in with a couple lines. Not thinking about it too hard, just kind of filling in certain spaces with blues, darker blues. Really giving me the feeling like water splashing out, right? Okay, next, in my demo image, there are fishies that I added. I didn't want to get too crazy with my detailings in the ocean because I want a lot of the focus to be on the passageway, on the people. But I did want to add some little details to further show that this is the ocean parting its way. So we're going to add in a couple bright colored fishies, not rainbow or anything crazy, but just a couple colors. So I'm going to pick up my red, and if you ever observe a fish, you'll see that it's actually a very complex shape. There's a lot of details to it. What we're going to do is a simplified version of a fish, a simplification of the fish, which is a circle. I'm sure you've seen this before, and a triangle in the back. And that's not really how a fish looks. It is a simplification. So I do challenge you to take a look at how fishies really, really look. But we are simplifying it for the sake of today's drawing. And I'm just going to do 3 different colors 2 times. So 2 red fishies spread out, 2 orange, and maybe 2 light purples, just like I did in my demo drawing. Where do I put this guy? I'll put him here. Cool. All right, so my ocean parting its way is done. The next step is going to be drawing the Jewish people. We're going to be drawing from the back perspective. So if you were watching this scene happen, you would be kind of standing above and behind. So you're looking at all these people from behind, which is why you can tell there are no faces, because if you ever look at the back of anyone's head, it's just their hair, right? So I do encourage in this section for you to do pencil in case you mess up. You can always erase. I'm going to just do marker so that we can keep it speedy, and also because unfortunately pencil just doesn't show up on the paper here if I'm filming. It's not dark enough. Also one last thing I want to say, sorry, is that there are only 5 people I was able to kind of squeeze into this space, but if you're using pencil or a colored pencil or a fine pen rather than a thick marker, you can probably fit a couple more people to show, because, you know, you can imagine it was a lot of people moving and walking and being liberated, right? So, but for my spacing purposes, I'll do around the same amount. So here we go. I'm going to do a step-by-step of a step-by-step perspective drawing from behind of a simplified person. So, of course, the head, a circle, a rectangle for their body, a long rectangle for their hand, and this one I'm going to make it like a mama walking with her child, a long rectangle. Maybe I'll put a long skirt on her. Very simplified. That's a rectangle. And then for the legs, just to show that they're moving in this direction, I'm going to do a little check mark like this. Okay? And I'm going to add in my kid. So I'm going to do a circle for the back of their head. I might just do a simple triangle here. Mama's hand and a sleeve and the hand connected to their parent or adult, and another rectangle and 2 little lines. Okay, it's pretty simple. I'm gonna do this person up here. I'm just gonna do the same thing I did down here, up here. Gonna have someone carry, you know, of course, you know, everyone was leaving and fleeing, so they had to carry their belongings with them. So I might add a person who's carrying a bag in the front. So a triangle, a rectangle, I'll put pants on them, and their hand going like this, and they might be carrying something. And then here I'm going to draw a little person, or you know what, I'll draw another person here. I'm going to do a circle for their head, I'm going to do a rectangle, another one for their arm, and I'm going to make it like they're carrying a backpack of some sort. So I'm going to do like a nice circle. Or sorry, an oval with 2 little lines for their legs, okay? So again, we're not drawing faces in here because we're looking from behind. And we're going to color everything in. This is that moment where we're making our coloring book, basically. And of course, give them different outfits if you want. You get to pick sort of how you want to do this. And let's see, I have 4 people. I wonder if I can squeeze in one more person. Maybe I can fit in one more person here. So here we go. We have about 5 people. Maybe one more person can walk here. Another head, square rectangle, skirt, Okay? So I've got a couple people that look like they're kind of walking through here. But guess what? There's another way to show that people are walking, and that is by adding footsteps or footprints. And I'm going to do a zoom in drawing session tutorial of how to draw a footprint, which we're going to add into our sand here to show that if you've ever walked down the beach, you'll see when you walk down the sand and you turn around, you've left behind footprints, right? So same idea here. As the people are walking, they're leaving behind footprints, either with their sandals or whatever they may have been wearing. So a footprint is quite simple. I'm sure you've probably seen it at your own footprint at some point. It's a curved line, and this one goes out and in. A part of it goes out and in, and then it literally just loops around and ends where it began. But you know this doesn't look like a foot, so we're missing the toes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, okay? I can do it one more time. My paper's lined, but just ignore that. It's a curved line. This part goes out and in, and then just loops around. And then you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for your toes. A simplified step-by-step of how to draw a footprint. Simplified. But I'm going to go ahead and do that here. There's 2 feet, so I'm going to do 2 footprints in sets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to add it here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe I can add a set here. It can show like this person's footprint. Kind of like painting a story for myself as I go through this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, cool. So, more or less, I'm quite happy with what I have so far. I have my people, I have my passageway, my ocean, my fishies, and my footprints. And now the fun part, I'm going to pick a limited set of colors to color in the garments of my people. And the last thing we'll do is color in the passageway, the ground. And I'm going to talk about a color scheme now, which is where you don't just go all willy-nilly picking every color. A color scheme is used in fashion design, in interior design, in art, and it means that you've decided to limit yourself to only a set of colors. So maybe 2 colors, 3 colors, 4 colors, and that is your color scheme. So you're not going crazy doing a ton of colors, you're limiting yourself. And what that does aesthetically, or I guess, what that does for the person looking at the artwork is that the artwork comes off a little bit more uniform. The eye can focus a little more on what's going on. And of course there are times for a color scheme and there are times where you don't necessarily need one. But in this case, I'm going to stick to a color scheme because I do want my viewer to really look at the whole picture. And I'm going to stick with the same colors I used in my demo. One thing. I'm going to do the heads first, color in the hairs. So I'm going to do some black hair and some brown hairs. And that means just kind of coloring in the backs of some of these heads. So yeah, not faces because we are not looking at the front of the people. So my backs of my heads are great. They're set. And I'm now going to do my color scheme that I was talking about. I'm going to stick with 3 colors only. I'm going to do blue, dark blue, I'm going to do green, and I'm going to do orange. And I don't need to put my crayon down every time to switch colors. I know I want to use blue consistently because it's part of my color scheme. So I'm just going to go ahead and use up my blue throughout my whole picture before putting it down, right? So put a little blue here and there, okay? And of course you can pick whatever colors you want. I'm going to get my green. maybe I'll make this person's package blue. And I told myself I would use one more color to brighten it up. I'm going to use orange. And I'm just going to color in the bags, the shirts, the pants or skirts in my colors. And I notice here, you know what, maybe she can be carrying a bag actually. I have the space for it. She's missing a hand anyway. That will give me the ability to add some orange in. And I really feel like my picture is beginning to come together here. People really look like they're moving. There's a uniformity in color. So I'm really up to my next and last step, which is the ground. And I want you to imagine and pick your own colors and techniques for how you think the ground may have looked at that time. There may have been rocks. It might have been sand. I'm going to do the same thing I did here. I'm going to be using a different coloring technique to show the feeling of texture. And this is where we're going to talk about texture. So texture means how something feels or looks like it feels in art. So texture of a fur coat versus the wooden floor versus a glass versus your hair versus skin versus a snake. This is all different types of textures, and we can show the feeling of texture through art based on how we use our materials. So instead of doing something smooth, like the smooth ocean washing over, I'm going to be using a circular motion with my wrist and hand to create a feeling of a rough path, to create the feeling of a rough texture. And I'm just going to color, making sure not to color over my people. I'm coloring around them, around my footsteps. I did so much hard work getting those details in. I wouldn't want to compromise all that hard work by being sloppy with coloring in the big space around. And just like I did in my demo, I'm going to incorporate brown because I think, in my imagination, that the ground maybe had some rocks. It wasn't just all sand. I think it might have had some brown tones in it. And I'm going to very lightly, so pressure, how hard we push something. If I push really hard, my color is really dark. If I push a little lighter, my color can be lighter. So that's all in your strength, right? I'm going to use a light strength or a light pressure to do my coloring. Because why? I don't want to overtake my people with the ground. So I want the focus when you look at this to be on the people, on the ocean. I want the ground to come second. And so I don't want it to be too dark. So going ahead and doing this circular motion again to get texture. Working carefully and slowly. Almost done. Amazing! So my envisioning of what it was like for Moses to part the tides to allow safe passage for the liberation of the Jewish people is pretty much complete. Every artist always signs their art. I was inspired by JL Library, but I did do this artwork, so I'm going to just sign my name here to show its completion. And that's pretty much it. So I'm really interested what your spin was on this. How did you do your passageway? How did you do your oceans? How did you color it in? How did you draw your people? What clothes did they wear? How did you color them in? What kind of grounds do you think they walked on? And so I'm really interested how yours came out. If you haven't finished yet, feel free to take your time finishing. But that's pretty much it. And I do encourage you to check out JL Library for their great resources. And have a happy Passover. Thank you.